Okay, my name is Karl Robinson, and today I want to give some feedback on what some of my family and friends sent to me in terms of criticisms and what I can do to improve. I want to send a shout out to Detroit Cares here in Detroit. Some of my students, they looked on YouTube and they saw me, and I'm going to try to have some young people here later on where we can talk about some of the questions they have regarding the Masons and fraternities and sororities and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of underground information that goes into barbershops and stuff that I suspect is being produced and financed by people who don't understand African philosophy and religion. And so I deeply resent that type of propaganda. But I'll have my students come in and trust me. They're pretty much on point. Now, one of the feedbacks I got was from an old church member, Eric Shaka, and who teaches martial arts in Florida. And he talked about, he asked me to say something about Shaka Zulu. I'm going to later on do a lecture on Shaka Zulu. But since he teaches martial arts, and you can probably just go on YouTube and put in Eric Shega, S-H-E-G-O-G-E-R-I-C. But to Eric, when you talk about the Zulus, there's one point, the Zulus in Africa, Shaka Zulu never fought whites. Shaka Zulu fought blacks for consolidation. After Shaka died, that's when the whites came in and the Zulu wars with the Boers and others ensued. So, but Shaka introduced warfare, and I was just fascinated by the fact that you teach martial arts. He had 3 divisions, and you know, you guys in martial arts, you got the red belt, the green belt, the black belt. He had 3 divisions, and we can get into this later. The white cowhide, the trainees, their job was to hit the enemy and get out of the way. The battle is on, all right? We are engaged in battle. The brown shield, they came in and they finished what they could. And then the black shield, they were the elite guard. They would win or die. They never came home. Either they win or they die. Victory or death, one or the other. And they were specially trained, and this was the only branch of the Zulu warriors that were permitted to marry. So they fought to get into this level. So I was always fascinated by the warfare. Shaka Zulu introduced broken field running. You know, you run this way and you run that way, and so I was very concerned. I was very interested in that. And Frank Hain from Florida sent me a link of his son who plays basketball, and Frank said, "Karl, if you promote me, I'll promote you." But Frank is from Brooklyn, New York. Part Hispanic, probably half black. He probably will get mad if I say that. But he named his son Marcus. He saw the tape. He says, "Karl, I like what you said about Marcus Garvey." He said, "You shouldn't have said that Harlem was downtown. Harlem is really uptown." And then, because blacks controlled the entire island of Manhattan, and blacks were pushed from Wall Street. Wall Street, where those people are protesting now, Wall Street was all black. And then the blacks were pushed all the way down. And so he said, "Yeah, Karl, Harlem is really uptown, and Wall Street, that's downtown." But he named his son Marcus, and the other son was named Malcolm. So I want to thank you for that feedback, and I'm going to be doing some more time permitting on the Zulus. And so let's get into today's. I want to talk about how the Jews entered history. And now I have my notes here. I'm trying to write a book, and I start off doing all these dynasties. And so when Moses comes, when Abraham enters Africa, It is in 1770. Birth of the Hebrews. First patriarch, Abraham. These are all my book notes. In the city of Ur, Chaldean, to sun worshippers whose God was Ra. Abraham enters Africa in the 14th dynastic period. We had already built all these pyramids. We had already established our educational system. We had already figured out the stars and the moon, and the Sirius B, and all of that stuff. So Abraham comes in, no religion, escaping famine, no religion, no land, no identity. They are nomads. They come from Western Asia. They come into Africa. They weren't the first, but they was the last group that came into Africa. And when they left Africa, when they were in Africa, and I got the tape, I got Dr. Clark, he's going to tell you this. When they came into Africa, they really had a good deal with Pharaoh. And that was to work for Pharaoh. And if you want to see how sweet this deal was with Pharaoh, you look at Genesis, the 47th chapter, the 27th verse. This is Israel in Africa. Check this out. So the people of Israel settled in the land of Goshen in Egypt. And before long, they began to prosper there, and their population grew rapidly. But let me show you the business deal that Abraham had with Pharaoh at the time. Then Joseph was the first wheeler-dealer of who we call the Hebrews, or the Jews. He was the first. Now they enter. They escape famine. They enter into Africa. This is the contract deal they made with Pharaoh. Then, and Pharaoh was their wheeler-dealer politician. This is in the 14th dynastic period. So we got a whole lot of stuff that's already happened. Then Joseph said to the people, "See, I have bought you and your land for Pharaoh. I will provide you with seed so you can plant the fields. Then you have harvested, a fifth of your crop will belong to Pharaoh. Keep 4/5 for yourselves and use it to plant the next year's crop and feed yourselves, your household, and your little ones. You have saved our lives," they said to Joseph. "May it please you, sir, to let us be Pharaoh's servants." Joseph then made it a law throughout the land of Egypt, and it instilled the law that Pharaoh should receive 1/5 of all the crops grown on his land. So this was a business deal. Somehow, because of oppression, business deals go bad. But Abraham enters Africa in 1770. They walked in. They didn't need the Red Sea. They walked in because Asia Asia is nothing but an extension of Western Asia, nothing but an extension of Asia. So they walked in. Something went bad. There probably was some brutality there, no doubt about it. But while they were there, they copied African law. Now you have to understand, this is what priests and these scribes do. They write history. History is always being recorded and written down. And so Abraham comes in there. Then you have the Moses, and then you have the crossing of the Red Sea. And I want to show you a quote, summarizing a quote by Dr. Clark. It's going to explain how Moses, while the Hebrews were in Africa, how they copied African stories and then put themselves in the story. But this is Israel in Africa. And in another lecture, I'm going to show you what Dr. Clark says that Shaka Zulu, the Jews in southern Africa, were looking for a homeland in Zululand. So this is the second time we're going to be able to talk about Israel in Africa.